What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the OU Sports Podcast. I'm Colton Sulley, joined by Louis Raser and Jason Batacao on Zoom. What's up, guys?
Not much. Been a quiet week for OU football compared to other weeks, obviously. But yeah, just enjoying some rest and excited to get into a bowl season.
No
Yeah,
doubt, no
looking
doubt.
forward to driving down to San Antonio with Colton. Be a fun time. Gonna expose him to my entire Christmas playlist, but we'll save
Oh,
that for the road.
oh boy. Well, like Louis said, been a little quiet of a week. Gonna get kick-started tomorrow though with signing day. And the rest of the week, keep it with OUDaily.com. Got some pretty cool stories coming out in the next couple days. But there was a little bit of news this morning, Louis. Kaden Green, the big time offensive lineman, freshman from OU who entered the portal shockingly last week and visited Oregon and Missouri over the weekend, committed to Missouri today. Really no surprise here. I think a lot of us kind of figured he would go back home where he's from, and we've heard that Missouri, certainly in the Williams-Nwaneri sweepstakes, has really gotten their NIL game up. So, guys, just initial thoughts on Kaden Green. I'm still kind of just shocked that he's not in Norman anymore. Not so much shocked that he went to Missouri, but just that he entered the portal in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, a week ago, if you would have told me that Kaden Green in a week would be a Missouri Tiger, I would have called you crazy. But I mean, this all has happened so quick. It's been shocking for OU. And they got to get going because that was kind of your foundation on the offensive line, having that freshman, that young guy who's going to be there for a couple of years and who played a great freshman season. But they don't have that anymore. They've been active on the transfer portal since, but need to get going some more. And I'll just say this, I'm excited for next year. Caden Green versus PJ Adebawore. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, kind of reiterating what both of you guys said. I mean, it caught me by surprise. I was like, what? Caden Green entered the portal? Like I almost thought it was one of those like spoof accounts, those fake like Twitter accounts that like make up fake reports, but it wasn't. So I was like, wow, that's pretty surprising. But I mean, OU has a lot of holes that it needs to fill, and probably the most important area of football. I mean, we look at OU skill positions on offense, like they're filled to the brim, especially with Jackson Arnold leading the way. But I mean, offensive line's a big question mark, and we didn't really expect that heading into the offseason. And kind of like you said, we expected Caden Green to be sort of the pioneers for that new offensive line. But OU has a lot of work to do in the transfer portal and in this upcoming recruiting class. So yeah.
For sure, guys. Let's get on to signing day. Obviously, tomorrow, big day, starts early in the morning. Lewis, not really fair that you get a little bit more sleep than us because you're on Eastern time, but and we'll get started here early in the morning. Brent is going to talk. We're going to have some stories on the website tomorrow, so watch out for those. But signing day is always a fun day. I think tomorrow is going to be absolutely insane, not only with people signing and flipping, but also I think the portal has just enhanced it. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on tomorrow, so keep up with us there. But guys, anything that we're looking at, obviously, you never know what's going to happen on signing day. Last year, the whole Peyton Bowen thing. You're obviously probably going to have guys commit to OU tomorrow that aren't committed. So we'll watch for those. But really, what you're just going to see tomorrow is finally guys that have been committed for a year or two sign on the dotted line. And we're going to get to hear Brent Venables talk about why these were the right guys for the program and moving into the SEC. So, but what are you guys kind of just initial thoughts looking at tomorrow, and maybe highlight a couple of the 2024 guys that are expected to sign tomorrow and like who kind of stands out?
David Stone. That's the big one. I mean, he's a beast. I can't wait for him to get to Norman and watch him and see the impact that he has even next year in the SEC. That's going to be exciting. No, I mean, I can't. I'm good. I'm going to go into it saying like this should be somewhat straightforward, maybe not too many surprises, but like you said, anything could happen. I mean, we could be working 13 hours tomorrow. So you just never know. But I'd say Dominic McKinley is one to maybe watch out for in terms of flipping, but never know what to expect there. Obviously, an A&M guy who Oklahoma recruited heavily, and Brent Venables and Todd Bates just took a in-home trip, a week ago or within the past week. So that's one to look out for. But other than that, there's no guys really that I would say like I expect to flip to OU or flip from OU. So that's just what I see.
Yeah, to kind of reiterate what Lewis says, I mean, I feel like it's Dominic McKinley or bust in terms of like crazy flips, in terms of like, a potential Peyton Bowen experience that we kind of got last year. But I don't know, guys that I'm looking forward to, obviously, like Lewis said, he picked the most obvious player, David Stone, but I mean, a couple guys I'm excited to watch. I mean, Taylor Tatum, that guy's got wheels. I mean, he's super versatile. He's probably going to be an instant impact player in that backfield alongside Gavin Sawchuk and whoever else. And Davon Mitchell, I think he could make a day one impact as well. I mean, we saw OU's tight end room this year. I mean, led by Austin Stogner and Blake Smith. No negative things to say about those guys. It just wasn't as productive of a season from OU's tight end room following the season Braden Willis had. So yeah, I think Davon Mitchell could make an instant impact as well.
Yeah, you guys kind of took the top guys, but I think Zion Kearney is another one that just stands out, not only from his rankings and stuff, but just on the highlight tape. I mean, watching that guy move, he's a Texas receiver. Obviously, Emmett Jones has just been, killing it on the trail. But guys, I think, and Lewis kind of hit on it with Stone, but I think this class especially, and I think the interesting thing that I want to ask Brent Venables tomorrow is just, obviously going into the SEC, you've got to bolster the defensive line. Well, in this class, this is a good start. I mean, you've got David Stone, Lewis. I think you mentioned Jaden Jackson. You got guys like Nigel Smith and Danny Okoye. I saw a highlight yesterday from Danny Okoye in his high school playoffs or whatever. That dude's just a monster. So I think it starts with Stone, but I also think just the depth of the defensive line in this class is something that I'm excited to hear Brent talk about tomorrow. And you kind of wonder, like you guys brought up McKinley that's committed to Texas A&M. That would just be a Dominic McKinley. That would just be a huge flip tomorrow. If the Sooners are able to do that, I kind of think that's a long shot, but I kind of also thought it was a long shot with Peyton Bowen, and things change by the hour. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Guys, a couple other names that I just want to shout out to maybe watch to flip. I know long time OU was in on Caden Durham, the running back from LSU. Might watch for him. You just never know. Obviously, Taylor Tatum's coming in, but OU needs depth there after losing Dalen Smothers, Marcus Major, maybe losing Tawi Walker. So that's one I would watch. Another guy, I might just, I don't think he's gonna leave or flip from OU, but just a name that we kind of heard for the last couple of weeks with Jeff Lebby leaving for Mississippi State. It's just Michael Hawkins, based on Jackson Arnold's starting. Kevin Sperry's coming in next season. That's just a guy that I watch. Nobody's telling me this or anything, but he's just a name that I kind of keep in the back of my mind of like, maybe tomorrow somebody offers him a big NIL deal and flips him on the day. A lot of people are going to be looking for talented quarterbacks. So, but I think, like we've talked about, OU desperately needs depth in the quarterback room behind Jackson Arnold. So that would not be a good thing if they lost him.
Yeah, definitely. A spot they don't need more depth though is receiver, and it kind of has you wondering like you've already got so many guys in that room and young guys too. Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, those guys are going to be sophomores next year. These incoming guys, and I think what you have four receivers who are expected to sign, maybe five tomorrow. So like, do those guys like see that and be like, okay, is there going to be a spot for me, or am I going to be sitting for the next 3 years and end up transferring anyway? So
That's
there's
a
just
good point.
much.
I think in that sense, like we've been saying on the pod every week, is just we can't believe how many guys are still on OU's roster with these high school guys coming in and the depth that they already have, like you mentioned. So I think not only is that something to watch, but some of the guys lower on the depth chart already on the roster. I mean, the portal is not over, so I think I would continue to watch that. But that's a really good point, Lewis. Just wanted to chime in on that.
The position battles next year are going to be insane, especially at receiver, and to see how many guys they end up rotating through that rotation. So it's going to be fun to watch.
For sure, guys. Well, keep it on oudaily.com. Like I said, for signing day, Jason and I will be there in person to talk to Brent Venables. So we will bring you everything from that. Lewis is going to have a tracker for us, tracking all the deals or all the. I keep thinking that this is like free agency or something. It's still college football, so it basically is free agency. But
I mean, Brent referred to it that yesterday, or not yesterday, like last week, basically.
Yeah. So Lewis will have you covered on all the signings. But guys, another thing that happened since we last hopped on the pod, it seems like we have more content for the pod like in the off season than we do even in the season. But Bauer Sharp, the tight end from Southeastern Louisiana, committed to Oklahoma. This is a guy that obviously I don't know a ton about. Can't say I ever watched a Southeastern Louisiana game, but Alabama wanted him, Tennessee wanted him. So I think it's just huge that a tight end room as thin as it was this season gets some depth, especially with the struggles they had. Joe John Finley getting elevated, Davon Mitchell coming in. So what were your guys' thoughts on OU landing Bauer Sharp yesterday?
Yeah, just the fact that they went after a portal tight end is huge. I mean, looking at his numbers, he was consistent. I'm not gonna lie either. I didn't really watch him too much at Southeastern. But a consistent guy, it looks like they like to run with him a lot. He got a carry in every game this year, except for their second game.
Former quarterback.
God knows that, OU this past year liked to use anybody but the running backs to run the ball. So watch out for that. But yeah, just the fact that they go out and get a portal guy, I mean, that's a position that you absolutely need. And Davion Mitchell, he's a great talent, but who knows if he's going to be able to start and really make a difference as a freshman.
Yeah, I think, I mean, he does what an OU offense wants a tight end to do, which is block and be versatile in the passing game. And where we didn't see Austin Stogner be impactful in the receiving game this year, I mean, we saw him be impactful in blocking, which they had him do all the time. So I think it's a really good depth pickup. I didn't really watch a lot of his tape. I'm not like a Southeastern football tape connoisseur. But yeah, I think it's a good depth pickup for OU.
For sure, guys. And we keep saying the portal's not done. Who are some other names that we're kind of looking at to enter for OU? And I know we do this every pod, but I think just things change every week. Like I'm still waiting on the Florida defensive lineman, Chris McClellan. I think he's down to, he's from Tulsa. I think he's down to OU and Arkansas. So continuing to watch on that front, guys. But are there any names? I think last pod we talked about A&M being a spot that OU could go into and pick out some people. I think they have some names like Hicks. Is it? Yeah, David Hicks. I get him and Stone mixed up. But I think he's one that they could go grab. But what are you guys thinking on the portal so far at December? It's December 19th when we're recording this. I think the portal closes on January 3rd. So what are you guys thinking?
I mean, I keep going back to, as far as departing OU, I keep going back to receiver like we've talked about, and then linebacker like we've talked about. There's so many guys there, and it seems like across the country you have a lot of players transferring out from schools or decommitting from schools, and it seems like there's some competition that they would have been facing if they stayed there or committed there. That doesn't seem to be the case at OU, especially for those two spots. Like this is a crowded linebacker room, and you've got likely a future first round pick or a future NFL guy, Danny Stutzman, leading the core. So I mean, it's interesting to see that nobody's left from there yet. Like you've still got Jaron Canick, Kobe McKenzie, Kip Lewis, Desan McCullough, and not to mention, I mean, Justin Harrington, the Cheetah. He's have we heard anything about whether he got his medical waiver or not? I know he was trying to.
I think he is. I think he's going to be here next year.
Yeah, so just a really crowded room there, and then receiver we've talked about. So it's going to be surprising to me if nobody ends up leaving from either of those spots.
Yeah, I think, I mean, a name that really, or two names that really pop out to me to kind of piggyback off of Lewis and the wide receiver room. I mean, Brennan Thompson's or it's Brennan Thompson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I blank? Okay, I don't know why I was blanking. I was thinking of another Brennan. Anyways, Brennan Thompson's still on OU, and I mean, like, very limited role this year. They only used him as really like as a guy that could just run a deep route here or there in a game. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he enters the portal or not. I doubt it, but I mean, you never know, as Colton said. Jalil Farouk is another guy that I look at. I mean, Andrew Anthony's coming back next year. Nick Anderson's probably going to have an even more elevated role than he had this year. I mean, Jaden Gibson's still the player that he is. I mean, there's just so many guys. I mean, there's just so many receivers in that room. I mean, you know, I mean, last year they were really good at showing camaraderie and spreading the ball around to every guy, but I wouldn't be shocked if a guy like Jaleel, who is super talented, wants to look for a potential, new home and better opportunity and better or more targets. But yeah, that's really all that comes to mind. Other guys on the defensive end, I mean, I don't know. I still think R. Mason Thomas could potentially enter the portal. Like, guy that just has been injured a lot throughout his career. Super talented, but maybe he needs a new home. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, guys, those are some good positions and names to watch. I continue to think OU has to get as much depth as they can on the offensive line. I mean, it's just been decimated. We talked about Kaden Green. I think you really need to go add a center because you lose Andrew Rame, and we know Troy Everett's in there. We've talked about him in the past, but I think just as much depth as possible as you can get there. You obviously lose Tyler Guyton and Andrew Rame. Savion Bird's in the portal. Aaron Parks is in the portal. Nate Anderson's in the portal. So I think just continuing to go after offensive linemen that are out there. I know they've only gotten Spencer Brown so far from Michigan State, which it seems like he's going to, start one of the tackle spots. You have Jacob Sexton in here in-house. It's super talented. But I think just going out and trying to get as many portal linemen as you can is probably still smart, guys. I know that Gino Vandemark guy is still out there. I think he's a guard or something from Michigan State as well. So, but offensive line is where my mind immediately goes, and I'm super interested to see how this bowl game goes and see how the offensive line holds up. But
Yeah. Another thing just to kind of briefly mention, I mean, who's going to be OU's offensive or not offensive backup quarterback next year? Is OU really going to roll with Davis Bevel? And I know you guys hit on this.
Michael Hawkins
Oh yeah. Do you really trust Michael Hawkins to be your backup quarterback
over
next
Davis
year?
Bevel, yes.
Well,
As a
yeah.
true freshman too.
Yeah. But like we've said, I think they've got to go get. I mean, it's tricky because like Michael Hawkins is a guy that like OU fans don't love his rankings. I think he's like in the top 25 of quarterbacks in the 2024 class. So he's not like as highly recruited as a Jackson Arnold or a Spencer Rattler or a Caleb Williams. But I was watching his highlights yesterday, and the dude's super talented. He can run, he can pass. He's super talented. Got to keep him, I think. But also, I wouldn't be opposed if I was, Brent Venables or somebody, and telling one of these other quarterbacks that's already on the roster, like, hey man, like we got to go get somebody else and get some more depth. So that's a good point, Jason.
Can you get anybody else though? Like nobody is OU is probably the most unattractive quarterback situation if you're a transfer quarterback in the country. Because like you're looking, you see a 5-star who's got the job locked up for what 2 years minimum. I mean, nobody's transferring into OU because they know they're going to be a backup. It doesn't even matter who you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the thing with the quarterback transfers right now is like it's weird, right? Because we just saw Dylan Gabriel go to Oregon and Dante Moore just went there to back him up for a year, which like he doesn't really have that much time because he just played a season. So it's like that was weird. He could have went and started anywhere. And then also, I think Louisville, did they get Tyler Shuck from Texas Tech?
I think they did,
Louisville?
yeah.
Yeah, so they're also in play still for quarterbacks right now. I think they were like in on I think they're still in on DJ. I think they're still on they're people these teams are trying to get two quarterbacks. So I think if you to Lewis's point, you're not going to get like a somebody that started from another team, but I think if you go and get like a 4-star or a 5-star even that like didn't play or didn't start last year and they're not going to start on their current team next season, throw them a couple bits of NIL money to come back up Jackson Arnold in the SEC. I think you could go get a good backup, but like Lewis said, you're not going to get a starter from anywhere this season to come back up Jackson Arnold.
Well, I think 4-star and 5-star is honestly generous. I think you're looking for like a 3-star at best here. Because like the Dylan Gabriel thing is one thing. He's got 1 year and then he's done. Like, makes sense. You go back him up for a year, learn the system, and then you take over and you know that it's your spot. Or if like, a team doesn't really have a quarterback, they're recruiting multiple, but like you think you can beat the guy out. This is Jackson Arnold's job. Nobody's beaten that. I mean, prime Tom Brady could show up as an 18-year-old, and I'm not sure he's beating out Jackson Arnold. Like, this is his job. Norman is buzzing for Jackson
I
Arnold.
just
And
think
it's his job for 2, 3, maybe even, well, no, 2 or 3 years.
there's
So,
quarterbacks out there that are transferring to schools and they know that they'll be a backup. It's just my point. And
Oh,
like Jason is quibbling with Michael Hawkins. That dude's a 4-star. Like
yeah.
I know he's going to be a true freshman, but like um I don't know, true freshmen play in the SEC all the time. So like I think there is depth needed for quarterbacks, and I think if Brent Venables wanted to, he could go find somebody to back up Arnold. It's not going to be like somebody you'd want to play necessarily, but it's going to be better than Davis Bevel. It's going to be better than General Booty. But Michael Hawkins is a talented. You don't want to start a true freshman, but I think, knock on wood, like Jackson Arnold's going to be great. Not going to get injured, but you would like to have more depth than you currently do there. So I think keeping Hawkins and maybe going to get somebody would be smart, guys. But we got to move on to we finally have a schedule for next season. Lewis, so jealous, man. But why don't you take the lead on this one? I mean, you got Alabama here, Tennessee here, go to Auburn, go to Ole Miss. Like, I don't even want to talk about it. It's just I'm like pissed, but
yeah, I'm quickly trying to pull up the schedule here. The toughest thing that I saw on it was the last 2 games. Yeah, that's right. The last 2 games. So like you have at Missouri and then you have a bye week, but then it's Alabama and then at LSU. And I think that's going to be huge because like realistically, I think you could go into that Bama game with 2 losses and in the playoff picture. But like it all could turn south because I mean LSU might be the toughest place in the country to play. Alabama is Alabama. That's going to be a really exciting game. But man, it's going to be fun. I think honestly, this is one of the better turnouts for OU. Like you have a bye week before Texas, then you get South Carolina at home after Texas, which I don't expect them to be great next year or put up too much of a test. At Ole Miss and then Maine right after. And that separates Ole Miss and at Missouri. So you get some nice breaks in the schedule. It's not like you have 2 grueling games in a row. The only time I see that is Bama, then at LSU, and Tennessee, then at Auburn could also be tough.
yeah, I think the beginning of the schedule is super easy. I could even see a world where OU starts 5-0 going into Texas, with a bye week. So that's super good. I think the middle of the schedule is pretty easy when you hit South Carolina, Ole Miss, Maine, Missouri. But then, like you said, that back half of the schedule, Alabama at home, and then going to Death Valley, like there's going to be some. I think it's going to be fun. I think those games are going to be like college football playoff deciding games for all 3 of those teams: LSU, Bama, and OU. So that's just what makes it fun. But Jason, unless you got any quick thoughts, I think we need to keep it moving here. But what was your initial thoughts on the schedule?
If I'm Brent Venables, I'm really happy that I have 2 buys, one before Texas and then one before I think it's the Bama game. I mean, I couldn't think of 2 more important games to have a bye before, especially for OU in its first year in the SEC. So I think that as much as difficult as OU schedule is, I think that played towards their way.
And
I was
you
about
also
to
have
say,
Maine, so you basically have 3 buys with Maine in the
yeah.
schedule. No disrespect to Maine, but
I was just looking at it, and Alabama basically has a bye before OU as well because they play Mercer. So both teams will be going into that game pretty fresh.
sleeper game.
Yeah,
So,
it'll be quite crazy.
guys, let's talk some OU hoops real quick. Oklahoma is the number 7 team in the country, and I don't think any of us would have thought that would be remotely possible. I think that's probably more shocking than a bunch of these portal things. Before this season started, guys. But they play North Carolina on Wednesday night. There's actually going to be a basketball game worth watching. OU, North Carolina, number 7 versus number 11. Guys, North Carolina's coming off a pretty tough loss the other night to Kentucky, I believe. And so they're reeling. They're going to be wanting to win. What is kind of our prediction outlook for tomorrow night's game?
Yeah, well, I'll say first off, this is like the first test that OU gets. And this is where we're going to see. I don't think they're the number 7 team in the nation or even the top 10 team, but this is where we get to see whether they're actually a tournament team or like a good tournament team, 5 seed or higher, a top 25 team. And I think the answer might be no. Like the win against Providence was great, huge win.
That's I
USC
was I
was
was
a
not to cut you
thriller.
off, but I was looking back at the schedule and like that's probably the only quality win right now because USC is
Providence.
not good. They lost to Long Beach State. They got crushed by Auburn, and then Arkansas
Iowa's like
lost
Iowa's
to
not
terrible
good.
teams. Yeah, so
Arkansas is
Providence
not
is the
good.
one win. Providence is the one win.
And they looked horrible Saturday. They were like sleepwalking through the first half of that game. I mean, it's Green Bay. It's tough to get your guys going for Green Bay. But this is where we're gonna actually see OU get tested. And I think they lose by like 12 or 15.
Man, I'm all in on the OU men's basketball train
That's
this
such a
year.
dangerous, dangerous path.
No, dude, I think I think they got what it takes this year to be successful. Like I'm gonna stamp my prediction right now so that way you guys can remember it and look back at this podcast. OU's making the Sweet 16 this year. They're going to wherever the Sweet 16 is at. I think realistically they have 3 NBA draft picks on their roster right now. I think Otega Owe is damn good. He's gonna be a two-way beast in the NBA one day. Maybe a really good 3-and-D role player. Milos can just see the floor with put him. I would put him on the par of like one of the best passing guards in the entire nation in college basketball right now. And JV McCollum he's a gamer. Like the guy can just get a bucket whenever you need him to. And OU hasn't had that in forever. And not to mention guys like, I mean, Hughley. I mean, the OU hasn't had that a stretch big who can, go get a rebound, work in the post and all that stuff. I don't know. I think OU is going to win by 12 against North Carolina. I think it's going to be a big statement win for them, and a lot of people like Lewis are going to be rolling in their grave because
I'll
they
I'll own it real quick. I'll own it if they lose and they prove me wrong. I'm just saying this is a dangerous game. They could lose by 15 points, be deflated, and then go into Big 12 play and stuff starts to spiral. I mean, we've seen it happen with OU basketball before, so I'd say don't trust them. And I still think they're like a 7 seed.
Oh yeah. I mean, but I still think they're making the Sweet 16. Think they got a
If
team
you're
for
wrong.
it. No.
I
No.
think they have a better chance of missing the tournament than making the Sweet 16.
Dude, they're like 10-0.
Who have they played?
Providence. That's it.
I'm
We'll,
telling
we'll
you,
see
there's
tonight. We will see, or not tonight,
They've only
tomorrow.
played Providence. I think both y'all are right. I think Lewis has all the right to be skeptical of this team. I'm still skeptical of them. But what I do know is that they look better. Like the eye test, they look better. I don't know if they're going to win half their Big 12 games. I'm
they
leaning
will.
towards no because the Big 12 is so tough. They're not going to beat Houston. They're not going to beat Texas. They're not going to beat Baylor. They might win like one of those close games, but they play Kansas twice. Like Big 12 schedules is so tough. I don't think that they're going to win half of those games. So I'm with Lewis. They're going to be a lower NCAA tournament team, but to Jason's point, anything can happen in the NCAA tournament. And if you have long athletic players like they do, we've seen them beat quality Power 5 teams. I mean, maybe not quality, but we've seen them beat Arkansas, USC, Iowa. Um, So I think they could make some noise in the tournament, maybe, but it's December 19th. Like, I think we gotta watch this North Carolina game, which I think is gonna be a great game. I think maybe North Carolina wins by a little bit. They have home court advantage. It's in North Carolina, but it's gonna be a fun game, I think. So guys, we have 5 minutes because I'm not gonna pay for Zoom Pro. So let's let's
Ow! I just hit my knee on my desk. Oh,
you
ow.
okay?
Yes, I was trying to move.
Let's preview the Alamo Bowl. Oklahoma plays a football game in 9 days. I can't do math. 9 days in San Antonio, 8:15 p.m. on December 28th on ESPN. We will all three be there. We'll be there a couple of days before to talk to coordinators, head coaches, players, all of that good stuff. Guys, what do we expect for this game? Big thing I'm looking at, and I probably mentioned it already. One, Jackson Arnold. How does Jackson Arnold do? I'm working on a story on that right now. Should be out in the next couple days on OUDaily.com. But how does he use this game to propel himself in the offense into next season? And then secondly, the offensive line. We've talked about all the revolving doors there. So those are really the two things I'm looking at. But I expect this to be a great game. I'm going to pick Arizona by 3.
Yeah, offensive line is the big one. You've got the weapons, you've got the running backs, the quarterback, but can you give them time to hit those weapons and actually stretch the field? That's going to be the big question. It's basically a preview of next season, and I think like even Arnold was kind of asked about that last time we had him for availability. But I'm also looking at the defense, a lot of returners, and just to see can they really take another step up this upcoming season. So I think probably the offensive line gets overpowered. And I got Arizona probably 37-30.
Yeah, I'm probably going. I'm gonna go opposite of you guys. I'm gonna go OU 45, Arizona 13. I don't know why. I just feel like OU's just gonna come out guns blazing. I think Jackson Arnold's gonna have a crazy game. I think OU's receivers are gonna dominate. Um, I don't know. It just seems like one of those games. Like this just seems like a pride game for OU, especially entering the SEC. Like you can't lose this game. Like you can't. Like you're joining the SEC next year and you don't want to lose to a team that's about to be in the Big 12. Like it just not to sound cliche, but like it feels like it just means more to OU because they're joining a new conference. Like I feel like this is a statement to walk into the SEC. So I think they win 45 to like 13.
That is a good point that I don't think a lot of us are thinking about too much. Is like this team, this Arizona team is going to be a Big 12 team next year. Like, just super weird. But anyway, guys, I'm looking forward to our trip to San Antonio. Looking forward to these stories we got cooking up. I'm super excited about those to drop here in the next couple days. But for all the listeners, hope everyone has a good holiday, and we'll probably be back on the pod maybe next week. I don't know, but
San Antonio special?
maybe so. Maybe we can do it like live on the Riverwalk or something.
Oh,
But
hell yeah. I would be so down for that. Me and you and Lewis on a boat in the river.
okay.
Fantastic.
Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Keep it with OUDaily.com, all that good stuff. And yeah, see you guys later.
Peace.